It came out of a series of 18 months of meetings that we had at the Stanford Research Institute. When we started it, it was because I had given to my friend and who became my partner, Willis Harmon, an assessment of what I thought needed to happen if we were going to have society change fundamentally in a way that was more supportive of life in all forms, not just human life, and therefore not only social improvement, but also the biosphere. And in that conversation with Willis, I articulated the tripartite mission of the Academy, which I'll repeat in a moment. And he was really excited by it. And he said to me that evening that we first chatted, he shook my hand and he said, well, why don't you do what you just said? And I said, well, Willis, if someone of your intelligence, humility, capacity, commitment, if someone like you was to join me, I would. He said, I'm in. So we shook hands. Well, he then arranged, because he was the chief futurist in residence for 16 years at SRI. At that time, Stanford Research Institute was the premier think tank on the planet. In fact, Willis was an electrical engineering professor at Stanford and was the first person in the world, and he did it at Stanford, to teach artificial intelligence. People don't know that about Willis. He was the first person to ever teach it. And so SRI noticed him, pulled him out of Stanford University, and made him the chief futurist in residence for 16 years at the Stanford Research Institute, which was, for all those years, the most powerful think tank in the world. I share that story with you because we met one day a week and one day a month for 18 months to decide what it is we could do as a group to activate what I had articulated the first night we met, which was the mission of the World Business Academy. And that tripartite mission, very simply, is this. Our job is to shift the consciousness of the existing business leadership from that of a predator to that of a steward, because you act differently if you think you're responsible for the outcome, and stewards do. The second part of the tripartite mission was to shift the consciousness of young people going into business, particularly into our graduate schools of business, so they could see themselves entering a noble profession rather than the jungle. Because you give yourself permission to do things in the jungle that you just don't do in the temple. So the idea that they were entering a noble profession would help ground them, we felt, in behaviors that would be life-supporting and sustaining rather than life-threatening. The third part of the mission was to shift the consciousness of the public at large so it would put its money where its deeper values, not its transitory values, not its shallow values, but its deeper values. And once the public did that, we were convinced that business would turn on a dime. So that was the founding trilogy, tripartite mission statement. And we started having these meetings once a month for 18 months. And we were exploring, how does one try to execute that mission? By the end of the 18 months, several things were clear to us. Number one, Stanford Research Institute could not be our home, although they were desperately trying to recruit us. They wanted us to become basically a big part of their outward-facing activities. That was not possible. And we explained why it was not possible ultimately to, he was called, Bill Miller was the CEO of Stanford Research Institute, and it fell on me to be able to provide Bill with the final report of our group after 18 months, at which he served us the same Mandarin chicken salad lunch every single time for 18 months. No innovation there at all. And my job was to tell him, again, this was in 1986, so we had to use overhead celluloid slides, right? We didn't have PowerPoints, to tell him why we couldn't be part of Stanford Research Institute, and that we had decided to go on and to form our own nonprofit called the World Business Academy. From that day forward, we ended up having a dialogue which started in the 18 months and has become the lodestar, if you will, that has guided us ever since. So if you take that tripartite mission and you really get into it, what are you really saying? The mission of the Academy is to spiritualize business. And we felt that it was very hard to talk about spiritualizing without it being confused with religion, which it is not. But it is very much in the nature of a more esoteric organization, which saw spiritual as its core rather than material as its core.